Hi everyone, this is Amit Prasanna of Guardian Professional, the accounting, legal and tax service providers. Property Tribes have asked me to do an interview today with Dev Rampersand, our legal expert, on wills and probate and inheritance tax. So just starting off with a few questions for Dev. Dev, what do you think are the important reasons why someone should have a will?
A will is very essential nowadays, especially when you are planning for tax. A will can be a very good vehicle to get your tax affairs in order and also mitigate inheritance tax. For a lot of people who've got a property portfolio, that is very, very important.
And can you tell us a bit about the thresholds currently for inheritance tax?
Indeed. There are two thresholds. First of all, there's one that's set at £325,000, and that's your nil rate band. And then there's another threshold which was introduced last April, which is known as your residential allowance, and that's actually £125,000. But that threshold's only available if your portfolio or your estate is below 2 million. So for many private individuals who have got a property portfolio, they may well be over that 2 million threshold and may not qualify for that extra £125,000.
Right, and I think that's one of the reasons why it's very important for landlords to be thinking about inheritance tax. It's often one of the taxes that's overlooked, because landlords by definition or just by nature have a large investment portfolio. Can you tell us about some of the changes that have come about in specifically about inheritance tax thresholds and the reason why wills have become more important?
Yeah. Well, first of all, by making a will, you can utilise the threshold allowances that are available. That's £325,000. If you transfer that by way of a will and leave that to your respective husband and wife, it means on second death you have a £650,000 allowance, which is still a very good saving for a starting point for inheritance tax. When you have landlords who've got sizable portfolios though, what they need to do is do a will which can maximise that allowance, but then also look at their portfolio and see what are the most tax efficient ways from an inheritance tax point of view on planning their portfolio going forward.
That's great, and or face a 40% tax charge, which is the other side for it. And are there any differences that people should know about between commercial property and residential property?
For the purpose of inheritance tax, if you have a commercial property which is part of a business and there are good grounds to say it's part of the use of the business, that can attract business relief. If it's a commercial property that's used purely for an investment point of view, that will attract inheritance tax on death. So, and with regard to residential properties, buy-to-let properties, they will naturally attract inheritance tax if you are over and above the threshold.
I think one final issue that people may not be aware of, but should know about, is the consequence of dying without a will, dying intestate. Could you run through the consequences of that?
Indeed, well, they have significant ramifications, especially if you don't make a will. You can expose your estate to tax immediately, and by that, your beneficiaries, and that could be your children, as well as your surviving husband or wife. So by not making a will, immediately you can trigger a 40% inheritance tax liability on your estate, which is payable by not only your surviving husband or wife, but also your children.
Fantastic. And what's your general advice to landlords with regards to inheritance tax and wills?
Well, for landlords, they need to start planning correctly. A will is a part of that exercise, but also looking at their property portfolio, looking at what elements of that portfolio may be looked at being given away, put into a different type of structure, which is more IHT friendly, i.e. inheritance tax friendly going forward. But the key thing is getting advice, speaking to your accountant, speaking to your solicitor, and that's the beauty of Guardian Professional. They can do all of that under one umbrella.
Indeed. And there you have it. That's the importance of wills and planning properly for inheritance tax and avoiding getting bitten by a tax that many people don't actually expect to face.